All right, welcome back, everybody. Had a bit of a schedule snafu. I know we're set to go live at 12 today, but we're going a little early today because, well, my friend here has to go talk to the folks at Seeking Alpha. So we always got
All
a
right, man.
busy schedule with what we do here. I haven't even had time to look at the top 10 list from yesterday, but it's been pretty hot this morning. So, I was able to scalp 32 points on the ES this morning, so I'm happy for the week. So,
There
um,
you go.
kind of looking at SPY, we're kind of setting up. We got this descending channel. It's unmistakable. Today we opened right at the regression line in the center of that thing. We've got a good chance at hitting the division line up here between regression and angular resistance up here. I do have a liquidity zone to be concerned with, and that takes us to kind of on target with 43.25 on the ES, or looking at about 430 on SPY. We might push through that liquidity and hit the rest of that move today, but this is already parabolic, so be careful because there's going to be a lot of volatility right in that range. I'm certain of that. Whenever you have a move that's this sharp like this, you always look left and find where the liquidity was, and it's all I had to do was look at this wick right here. Pretty simple to see, and essentially we striped that over to the right side of our chart, and we can see exactly where we'd expect some sellers to be. Pretty simple stuff. Moving on, let me see if we can dig into the Cramer list here. I'm kind of looking through all of this crap about the Fed announcement yesterday. Bunch of waste of words. We know exactly what to do with that. He started with Este Lauder, but you had a couple of things to talk about. You got those leveraged ETFs out and rolling. We just needed volume to get involved in the options, and you want to go about that for a second? Go for it.
Yeah. So, as I said last week, we launched the only 2x long short Tesla and 2x long short Nvidia. So, the TSLT, which is the 2x long Tesla, has gotten the most interest, but definitely want to get some volume going in those guys. That's what the option market makers look at. And, once they see some consistent volume, then we'll be able to get options on it. And, that's going to be fun. Options on 2X, baby.
Oh yeah, man. I was just saying, like, that's twice the money for option sellers. We love that, and there's nothing I love more than selling options on leveraged ETFs. I'll tell you what. It's been a staple to be selling options on TQQQ for a long time. For instance, this is just going to be icing on the cake because you can tack it to equities, where you tend to have a higher rate of return on equity leveraged ETFs as opposed to index leveraged ETFs because, well, although they're both depreciating assets, the equities tend to be a little bit longer because, for the most part, successful companies tend to stay successful for a long time. And, well, we've proven that. So, uh,
And we know Nvidia and Tesla are gonna move.
oh,
I mean,
absolutely. And that's
yeah,
where that option selling.
TSLT is up over 11% right now.
Yeah, it's kicking butt this morning. And yesterday's move, man, that was a hell of a gap up. I can see a very nice, plain, measured move. Volume's still a little light, but dude, it's picking up. And if you go,
It is. We're on track for our best volume day in TSLT.
a little trick I use for a lower volume stuff, go with HA candles, man. It just sets it all up. You can see the whole trend. And what's ideal with this is a price action application. And you guys know I'm a scalper and price action trader to my core. Pretty easy to spot measured moves when you have an exact 1-for-1 setup here. And we haven't quite hit that peak yet. We're close. And today I would expect it to nail about $19.72 pretty easily, just from my point of view. But I know it'll go higher because we got lots of history on the 15-minute chart already that we can actually relate to. And you can see it's very plain, simple price action. And once you get that down and you start to sell options on something like this thing's going to be a gold mine. I can already tell.
Oh yeah.
Moving on, he was old Jimbo was talking about Este Lauder there. Again, that's one of his favorite things to talk about. I'll occasionally take a scalp trade on Este Lauder, but I mean, you can see I pretty much plotted this out. I had this measured move out. We got the 2-for-1 out of it. We could literally just go and look left on the chart. This is what I had viewed target the same way, by the way, as this being the primary. Oops. And this is a weekly chart. It's a long time. You go right to the split, drop this down below the split. Oh, look, we've hit the target. All right. So pretty simple stuff with price action. Would I get long on Este Lauder here? I don't know, but let's see what old Jimbo said about it.
Yeah, he came out and actually apologized. Unfortunately for me and for SJIM, he's made a lot of mistakes. He wasn't pounding the table on Este Lauder. So, I mean, I know we've been short it in SJIM, but we were not short because I mean he's come off a lot of these, a lot of those types of companies, unfortunately, because they've been getting their butt kicked.
Right. What I see in this statement also is he said, the stock has not hit bottom yet. Well, it's hit the bottom of our measured move target. So can we get a little bounce and retracement here? It's possible. Let's drill down into some smaller time frames, but let me get rid of this because this makes a lot of noise on short-term charts. So go to the daily. Pretty much nailed our 2-for-1 down. That's easy. We got an angular here. My chart looks like a mess, guys. It's got more lines than any 70s coffee table. But let's go in. Hey, we hit a little bounce this morning. So, when yesterday he's saying it hasn't hit bottom yet, sure. When he came out with that news, yeah, absolutely. It freaking went way further south. But here we are. That looks like a bottom to me and very primed for a retracement. Typically, when we get these long bars, you'll retrace like half of them pretty typically. Sometimes you get a third of it like we have here on the 2-hour chart. Can we maybe expect some turnaround in this company? I don't know. But for a quick scalp, that was a hell of a bull bar to play. And we might even go so far as to say it could go just a little bit higher and hit the half of that bar, like right in here. So we could put a target on there around 114.75. If it continues to trend up and hit the upper range up here at 128, cool. We can get a nice swing out of that. But in here, this is a day trader's chart, 100%. I wouldn't swing this until I start to see something set up on the daily chart that resembled a reversal, and that does not resemble a reversal.
No, but this is one of those days you got two things going for it. Number one, Cramer said it's got further to go.
Yep.
And number two, the market's up.
Yes, sir.
That's rocket fuel for any stock.
Absolutely. And don't ignore the fact, whenever you see a gap on a daily chart like that, they love to fill. That's kind of a rule that a lot of people tend to follow. I don't always throw a whole bunch of salt into it until I start to see a reversal on the shorter term charts. Not quite a reversal here, but retracement for sure. And, if we start getting above this level here that I have marked out at like the 114.40, 114.50 area, it could resume that whole gap, but just be cautious there. Scalp it until it shows you some signs of a reversal for a swing. Pretty simple. He got into another club name too. This is item number 5 on his list, so it'll be pretty brief today. He was looking at DuPont. Don't know that I see anything really eventful on that, though, do you?
Yeah, they got their butt kicked yesterday.
No kidding. Looking at that weekly chart, unmistakable Mtop, and right now it's kind of in that area of it could find support here or it could resume to the bottom. Previous low down here around 63.70.
I mean, I'd use the June low, 66.31, if you wanted to. Actually, it didn't really undercut that. Yeah, no, I'd stay away from this one both ways, long or short.
Absolutely. What it did do is it did find a nice measured move up. Here's your consolidation, split the mean. It broke that, it hit the bottom of that range. So it's already kind of at an area where it can maybe bounce in range for a few days, maybe a couple weeks. But I kind of wonder if it's ever going to be anything worth looking at later. What did Jim say about that? Full year revenue was lowered and below expectations. The stock was dropped 3%. Ouch.
Yeah, no, I think he likes DuPont.
Yeah, he's probably going to try and say maybe. Well, let's make a call out. Maybe by the end of the week, he's going to start pounding the table. Buy. We'll see. But as far as a price action point of view, I mean, yeah, we've pretty much met, a 1-for-1 target. Retracement's pretty likely in this range, so we'll see it bounce around a little bit, but it's going to go more sideways than up and down, I think, in the near future. It'll be a decent little day trading stock, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts talking about going long on this thing in the near future here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We'll see
In
if
fact, he did actually last night. He had talked about it last night.
so he'll be looking out for a long, or is he saying buy, buy, buy?
I mean, not buy. It was on a kind of a list of stocks he liked, but it wasn't. I mean, it's not a Cramer favorite.
Right, right. So it's just kind of the back burner Cramer stock, so it doesn't get a whole lot of his attention. But we'll definitely keep an eye on what he says over this with this for the next till the end of the week, and maybe into next week. We might see him start to say, "Hey, man, we might take a long," and then of course this becomes our primary, and we get a short all the way down to $62. Hey, I'm down. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
Another favorite they talk about, often, is going into the other sectors here. We're looking at Humana, HUM, and I've kind of been reluctant to trade this thing much. I mean, I have, but I didn't like the setup on this. It broke its retracement back on this move, and it hit the liquidity zone within this guy and bounced. So I'm like kind of skeptical on this to be much further away from a bottom here, but I don't know. I think were you guys shorting this one? I can't remember. With
Humana, we've not been in. I mean, unfortunately, because it looks to me like it's got more downside. I mean, I bet you it fills that gap to the 460
that wouldn't surprise me
area.
at all. And it's got the momentum built for a 1-for-1 down, and look, it probably lines right up with our pivot down here somewhere. Yeah, it could see 460. Um, I would be very cautious in this area here between like 468 and 464 here. There'll be some liquidity there, so there'll be some volatility. If you look left, you can see, I mean, it did exactly that, nice and
I
stripy.
mean, yeah, just look at all the gaps in this thing. I mean,
Yeah,
this looks like a monster to try to trade,
it
or at least
is.
to try to hold overnight.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to sleep holding this overnight. Heck no.
Yeah.
Um, but scalping it on a 5-minute chart's probably usable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a day trader maybe,
Absolutely.
but at that high price, I
Yeah,
mean, I
there's
don't.
plenty of better
Yeah,
things to
I
do.
like the options. I don't like the high price stocks.
There you go. And this is something, I mean, if I see a premium setup on this thing, I might be interested in running some like debit spreads on it or something just to kind of very much limit my risk in it. But that's not I just don't like this chart. It's just not a great
Yeah,
trader.
no, not a fan.
But man, Jimbo loves it. So anytime he talks about it, I kind of look at it and be like, okay, well, do we have a setup? No, not yet. I'll just wait. Never really that interesting to me. He goes on to talk about their numbers, their revenue and earnings and stuff. No one cares. Caterpillar, however, that's where we might have some setups here. Let's have a look. I rarely trade Caterpillar, but when I do, it's usually a pretty good win. Nailed the old analyst target here at 238, damn near 237.71 we got today. Let's go into a daily chart on this thing, and we'll start rocking and rolling here. Up 1-for-1.
I mean, this could be along with the 228.96 low is as a stop, but
It's kind of set up to where
yeah.
it could go either way.
Yeah. I mean, it could hit the 200 day and bounce right back down.
You'll notice like sometimes I'll draw just lines on my chart. Other times I'll notify liquidity, and we're kind of in an area where it's going to get interesting. We basically striped this zone here. I can put a couple other liquidity zones on here. It made a nice bounce, but it's not as convincing until it gets above that previous analyst target here for a long. Would I continue shorting that? No, I'd pretty much be covered by now. As far as a return to mean, we might see it push to like 249, maybe even 250 on just a retracement of this previous trend. But again, it's not one of my Favorite stocks to trade? I do trade it when it has a good setup. I've had some killer wins on Caterpillar, but it's just been it's a dicey chart to trade. I mean, look at all the
Yeah,
it's
no,
kind of
I hardly ever touch this one, and typically we don't, own it for SJIM just because, I mean, you don't get a lot of bang for your buck typically in
right.
something like a Caterpillar that, same as you do on some of the other stocks he pounds the table on.
Yeah. Speaking of which, next is Disney. You got some stuff to say about Disney.
Yeah, I mean, I actually went long Disney this morning personally. We're short in it in SGIM, but I like the setup when it broke through the 50-day moving average this morning, and wanted to get a little equity exposure. So, I mean, I kind of like it right now from the long side for trade. Of course, we got the whole go woke, go broke thing going.
Oh
So,
gosh, yeah. You know,
not something I'm going to hold on to for the long term, but this morning was looking for a way to, capture some equity exposure without chasing something.
a couple weeks ago we were talking about this. I remember we were waiting for it to finish the short move and return to base, and now it's gone full 1-for-1 down. It's returned to the mean. It could be a long to return to that high, maybe hit the $86 button again. We still know that that $88 previous analyst target is just kind of glowing for everybody to look at. And when they see a big move like this, a lot of people will end up chasing this. So we could see some volatility extension on this. Maybe even touch like 83 and some change, 83.40 or so today,
I
possibly if
mean,
it continues.
yeah, I mean, and eventually I'd like to see what it does around that 86 area if it can
Definitely.
keep moving.
Yeah, 86 to 88, easy play for sure. In the meantime, as much as I enjoyed shorting Disney, I'm kind of like skeptical about staying short on it because this is starting to look like it could accumulate and break into a move right above that
It
86 and
it
push
could.
88.
It's curling right now, so I may get out of it, but we'll see. I mean, the whole market's just kind of flatlined at the moment.
Yeah, and we had some great trades on the S&P this morning. I chart SPY and trade the ES in kind of a unique way, and with our members, it works out great because we were able to call a lot of very nice setups and trades this morning. A lot of people made some money in our group this morning. Yeah, now is the time of day where the market will tell you flat out, go eat your lunch before I do. So I tend to stick to that. Around 11, 12 o'clock, I'm pretty much done for the day. I could have been done for the day in a pre-market this morning. I usually have a target of like 10 points a day on the ES. I met that in the pre-market before the bell even rang. So um, continue scalping this whole trend on the market opening, and man, I did very well. I got my 32 points today, so I could be done for the week and be happy. So
Better than me. I decided to try to short some Roku in the pre-market. Luckily, I got out before it went parabolic, but
I can
that
take a
was unfortunate.
let's take a look at that. ROKU with my chicken pecking one finger because I got my phone in my other hand looking at Jim's list, and this hand's free for the mouse. Yeah, man, that was would have been a great short if it broke that low, but just before the bell. But yeah, they picked up some volume, and we
Yeah,
kind of
it broke the 50-day, and I was profitable for about 3 minutes,
right
and then it just took off. It's
just
like, I gotta get out of this.
ripped a face off. Back in the day, we used to nickname this thing Broku. um, it's set up. Looking at yesterday and today, we could go even higher. We could see this thing hit about 79.60 up here. Just kind of eyeballing this big old bull candle here. That's a big range bar, and there's your accumulation. We usually just mark the range. We take a good sample of that candle, stick it above the mean, gives you an extension target, right around $79.
Yeah, I may be a glutton for punishment and may try to short it later, but yeah, I'm watching kind of there's some highs in that 79-ish,
Typically, when you get it,
78 to 79 range. So if it bumps up against that and
yeah,
starts to curl, who knows? I might be
typically
a glutton for punishment.
when you get a big old parabolic, measured move like this, they love to return to mean. So that might give you a good short opportunity to scalp it later on in the afternoon or maybe tomorrow and get yourself some money out of that. Looking left, I always look at these on the daily chart as well. We've kind of basically made our 2-for-1 down. We've returned above this accumulation here. This is that big candle we're seeing right now. There's your gap. So the gap went right to the previous accumulation mean, and then today we're shooting above that. So we could very easily see it kind of fall flat on its face right in this range here. So yeah, around 79 bucks might give you a good short to scalp that back down.
We will see. I'm watching it.
Yeah, I always throw my pivot lines on here. This is why my charts always look so damn messy, because I'll just stick a pivot on there and be like, okay, well, that's the top of that range, and there's a bar right here for range. But there's one other thing that always stands out to me, and this is a liquidity gap or liquidity zone here. I just look for the big wicks right there. Anything in that range is fair game to scalp, and scalp it to the upside and then rip it back down. Whatever you got to do, man. Make that money, trade the chart. It's all about it. Pretty much all we can really say about this one. Roku is kind of a great trading stock. I've always enjoyed it. Back in the day, I was talking to you a little bit in the just before the show about this giant Mtop. I couldn't help but take notice of. Back in the day, back here in kind of late 2021. I noticed we were coming back up. A bunch of my friends went long on this, and I'm like, no, dude, look left. That's a giant double top. I went short on this and just capitalized that whole move over and over and over again.
The IBD guys were probably looking for a cup and handle on that.
Right. Yeah, they kind of were. And I just shook my head. I'm like, I'm not touching that long, but I'll short it. And I enjoyed that short. That was one good one. And then that year I also had a short on Zillow. Zillow was a great one too. I mean, that was pretty plain, big spike up here. I call this the middle finger chart. I mean, you look, couple knuckles, middle finger sticking up, another knuckle, and blam. So just look left, and I just started plotting off the target. So I'm like, okay, we'll return here. I shorted that move, and then I kept spiking some little shorts all through the rest of the year. That one I won't mess with anymore, but I think once we start seeing rates come down, we could see a good bullish swing in the real estate market, but not yet. Another one in that sector that I had talked about, and this is one that I trade occasionally now, but and all through last year and part of this year, I pretty much made a whole bunch of options return on this thing open. And it's essentially, an internet-based company. They go and they buy up a bunch of properties and build inventory and, move them through and stuff. I don't know exactly what they do. They're just house flippers, I guess. They kind of are doing what Zillow got in trouble for. But the options income had been great on this thing, leading right up to its spike up here. I pretty much took my profit off when it started hitting that $5 bill area and closed my positions. But all through this, I was wheel trading every bit of this, selling both calls and puts through that whole thing, and cleaned house. My total negative cost basis on this particular one was $29.68 by the time I closed it, and that was my options income on this. I could have held on to that and wrote it down, but this one I didn't. I just took it off. I'm going to wait till it settles somewhere between $1 and $2. Anywhere in there is fine. I'll start selling some puts on this again, but I'm going to pay close attention to what the Fed says about interest rates before I do, because that's going to absolutely be the make it or break it on the real estate sector, hands down.
Yeah, I think that the Fed's done this year, but the real question is going to be, when are they going to start cutting and how aggressive are they going to be? And and I wouldn't chase a name like this today. I mean, every crappy little company like this is up 17% today.
Yeah,
So it's
I mean, that's a hell of a run today. Look at that bar on 2 hours.
and everything is up 17% except for Roku, which is almost double that.
Right, pretty psycho. And that's the thing. Like, when you get a swing in the market like this, it just brings a whole bunch of excitement, and a lot of people just pile in and start chasing. And well, you know what that does? It provides liquidity for the big boys. And we don't consider ourselves, over at Bullish Bears being the big boys. We just ride the coattails of the big boys, and We know better than to go chasing a snake into the grass.
Yep.
um, Moving on a little bit, let's go back to Jim's list before I get too far off. We're almost done with it. He talked a little bit about Apple and Amazon and Google and the rest of the magnificent. Um, any leeway there?
Yeah, I mean, we've been short them in SJIM, and for 3 months, that's been a great place to be. I mean, we've crushed the market. Those things are going to snap back. I know yesterday they were like 65% of the market's returns. My guess is that today they're not because the money's going to the short covering names.
Right.
But, Apple earnings are tonight. So, that's going to be big. And if you look at Apple, Apple's right at the 50-day moving average. I mean, it's at one of those spots. It could, it could be a short, it could be a long. Besides SJIM, I typically don't trade Apple just because I think they're better things to trade. And I mean, it's one of those names that people use as a flight to safety.
Right.
So, there are times when it should go down and it just doesn't because fully invested PMs have nowhere else to go.
Good
But,
point.
Apple earnings are going to be huge tonight.
I think so.
There's a lot of data this week. Yesterday the Bulls checked all the boxes. Today we got Apple, and tomorrow we got non-farm payrolls.
Yep. Good point. And yeah, I could see that ranging. We always talk about the measure move stuff, and I always say half and whole is a rule of thumb here. There's a pivot right there at 181.50, and I could see an after hours earnings spike that 181.50 pretty quickly. And if all of a sudden things kind of turn, they say something like, "Oh, revenue down," watch out because it'll spike that, grab liquidity, and run right back down to 174.70 where the next pivot is. So be careful trading earnings on that thing. I love scalping stuff in earnings calls like that because I can trade it on a 5-second chart and just run with whatever the hell I see. I used to love doing that with Amazon, particularly when I was trading in the $3,000 range. Grab a few shares, just scalp the ride, and walk out. Take advantage
Well,
of that
we do
volatility.
know it's not going to move as much as Roku did.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. No, nowhere near. But just be aware that when you are trading after hours, whether it's an earnings call or not, you're literally just trading with other traders. It's really, it's going to be chasing ladders, and everybody and their mother's going to be playing that game. But the big boys tend to stay away from those. So just know that if there's a big spike, maybe it might get the attention of somebody to go short it. Vice versa, if there's a big drop, a lot of people will buy that dip and ride it up. Warren Buffett says this on a longer scale, by the way, but same thing plays into 5-second price action. Buy when they're afraid and sell when they're greedy. Nothing really that much more to it. It's just trade the chart. Looking at Amazon, I mean, we've kind of mapped this out. We've been trading Amazon a bit this year, and the other day, last week, I think it was, I was calling out maybe it'll reach the top of my liquidity zone, and it pulled back, hit support, and freaking just ran with it right through my liquidity zone. This was kind of a danger zone from a time ago, and I don't know why my data is a little weird. I got to stretch it out here. Give me a second. Got analyst targets all over the place. This was a revised one. They pulled it down from 180 at one point down here to 150. Kind of silly, but price action speaks for itself. We've got liquidity zones. We've made the 2-for-1, came back, tested support, bounced off the daily 200. But we have kind of a continuation pattern here where if we can get above this level, we can start shooting up into this liquidity area and maybe see this thing kind of poke up to like 143-ish on this move.
I think if this market stays strong, which, again, Apple earnings, NFP, but
right.
assuming the Bulls can check the boxes on those, I mean, I don't see why Amazon doesn't test the highs.
Good point. It could do it. And then, worst case scenario, things just correlate into a quick spike up for liquidity grabs, and the bears come into play. Oh, we know where those targets are too. So, this will be a bit of a very challenging time of the year as far as all the news and earnings and stuff coming out to swing trade. But for day traders, this stuff is glorious. So just kind of stay tuned with this thing. If you're a swing trader and you don't like day trading, kind of sit tight. It'll get better. You'll get some better setups coming into it probably next week. Day traders, they've got the market nailed today. So just kind of let that play out and then take your positions. Kind of the same thing with Google here. You mentioned Google a little bit. Let me see here. And then he gets into like all this stuff about ESPN and Disney, all that crap in that particular post. But Google is also a little interesting.
Yeah, it's in an important spot here. I mean, it's right on the 10-day. There's that gap. There's the 127.22 low in September. There's some other, kind of lows in there. So it's, yeah, I mean, some interesting stuff in Google.
My chart software is giving me hell with the daily for some reason on these. I think the forward split's kind of screwed with it. But yeah, same thing we had with Amazon there. We got the 2-for-1 up. We've visited the support level. Now we've got this little descending channel thing that's looking very similar to SPY. Came up, hit the angular literally today, and rejected it, pulled back to pivot. Kind of much of the same. Just if you're a swing trader, wait and see. If you're a day trader, scalp it. Looking at this zone here, it's definitely got that 1-for-1 down. I think we were talking about shorting this. Was it last week or the week before? Running that 1-for-1 down to the key pivot here, down to 123.40. I think I remember saying that. I got to look at my notes. But coming back through this regression line on that descending channel was pretty much a no-brainer for retracement, and we're right there now. So, yep, hang out and see. I think Apple earnings and a couple other movers are going to kind of either turn the tables on this or let it run. Swing traders are going to have to just wait a couple days. We'll see. He did go into AMD a little bit. I know that's one of the favorite stocks to talk about, and then later on he goes into like GM and Ford and Stellantis and
AMD looks kind of double toppy here, and showing weakness with the market being strong. I mean, I don't know if I would have the guts to short something at the moment, but if I did, and we're not in AMD and SJIM because he's always pounding the table on NVIDIA. AMD is not one of the faves.
It's the forgotten great stock to trade, though.
Oh yeah,
I love trading AMD. Old data, it had us sitting at the bottom of this gap here, and that was a key pivot area. I put it in gold when it's a key pivot like that because it just means money to me. It nailed it, pulled right back, and this is old data. I'm going to probably put some new charting on this later on, maybe even tomorrow. I might get into it with my group and just kind of talk about potentially retracing this move here. So we've gone parabolic. We hit the key target, nailed it pretty hard. I would love to see this pull back to like 103, and then we'll see where it goes there on. But in the meantime, yeah, this is not a swing trader's market. This is a day trader's paradise, and that is looking like weakness to at least pull back to a couple key levels here. Might even eat half of this entire range bar here back to the 2-hour 200 period down to like 102.70. That's very possible. This is a volatile day, and this is the kind of volatility we can expect. Yeah, well, we'll let Cramer chip his teeth about this one all he wants, but we like to trade it. We just got to wait for the setup to finish working out here. That's pretty much it. I mean, I can look at GM real quick, but I already know kind of where I'm looking at GM. This chart looks nasty because I've had these marked out zones like on it forever, and it still hasn't finished that massive bear move I was expecting from the weekly chart, but it certainly hit a key note in it and kind of bounced. So either we'll see this continue.
He's not touching the auto stuff right now. Someone called in last night about AD&T. I don't even know what company that is, but it's something related to autos. He said, I'm not touching anything auto related.
That's kind of smart, actually. I'll give him points for that one because I wouldn't be messing with autos
now
either.
But he did ride Ford a whole heck of the way down. So
Yeah,
Don't give him credit yet. Yeah, at the bottom he's saying don't buy the autos. So
right. This is a one of my other famous charts that I always talk about building is the fan line chart. And this move here, we were expecting maybe a quick little bull move, and we got our bull trade. That worked out great. I haven't touched it since really, and I've just been watching it melt through all these fan lines. There was the critical support here, the gap, and then the next daily candle just salamo. And this is where I should have been drawing the rest of my fan because I always run, your split lines down here. So it's like halfway point. You can go quarters and thirds, whatever. The point is, until Ford becomes interesting to me to be a bull, I might just continue being a bear on this thing and run it back down to that support level. But for now, we'll just wait. This is not a swing trader's market until it gives us a better sign. Love playing in those levels. Last week we kind of touched base a little bit on some junior minors. Did you have any other to speak of real quick? We got you got your meeting here at noon, so we got a little bit of time to play with.
yeah, I mean, kind of weird on the precious metals. I thought we'd get a ramp up. I mean, typically they're going to go inverse rates in the dollar. So with rates coming down, the dollar coming down, but we're not seeing it today. I mean, a lot of weakness in the metals. Yeah, I mean, gold's up a drop, silver's down a drop. I've tried to trade silver a couple times today. I keep getting stopped out, and none of the miners look interesting. Um,
Yeah,
I always keep the gold and silver miners on watch because when they move quick, and and they also tend to be a canary in the coal mine on stuff going on. And yeah, and the people who read my daily newsletter sometimes comment that I've got some weird obsession with gold and silver miners, but I think you get kind of a little extra bang for your buck there, where with what's going on in the Middle East, for example, we could wake up to World War III, markets down
true.
10%, and gold and silver miners are up on a flight to safety, or regional banks are going under, people buying gold, that type of deal. So that's what I like about them. And and they tend to be great traders. Just and nothing going on yet today. I mean, I'm watching silver. I'd love to go long silver, but it keeps stopping me out.
Yeah, it's a wait and see. Just looking at price action on this, I mean, it made a nice move down on that channel. One for one down was met. Retracements met. It can be long or short here. We'll just wait for this to break, and it'll give us a clue. As soon as this range starts to break out, get it above the daily 200, we get a good bull swing out of this thing to the previous high.
Yeah, I mean, right now it looks like a short. I don't want to short precious metals with the possibility of World War III sitting out there.
Right. I mean, that could rip your face off pretty quick for sure.
Yeah.
And I look at SLV whenever I hear the word silver. I just look at that. It's just
Yeah,
a
I mean, that's what
basic
I've been
chart.
trading this morning. It's just not working.
Yeah, it's just a wait and see moment. It's just not a great swing trader. It's more of a day trader at this moment. But it's like such a small move. I mean, you don't really get a whole lot of bang for your buck on day trading it either. So I tend to like using long term like leap option spreads on this type of stuff. But I would be reluctant to take a position until I see this pattern break. And notice I switched to HA candles because these were just dirty on the regular candles. Not a lot to see there. But you get it into HA candles, you get a little more smoothness and seeing your identifiers of trend change. And yeah, I would love to see it, push up to like 2280 up here, but I want to wait till this breaks out for sure. In that sector, there's still plenty of options to sell. I actually last week I put in some limit orders to sell more puts on LODE I was telling you about with the really small float that we could just
Yeah, yeah.
get a few friends together and buy the whole damn company. Um, Kind of looking at that, and I always get into the fundamentals on that stock a bit too much, but look a little deeper. They're not just in metals; they got some real estate stuff going, but they're in batteries. They're in some stuff to really do a lot of recycling type stuff. They're getting into the green space a bit heavy, and so far it's starting to look pretty promising for them. So um,
All right.
if you got time, dig into that a little bit. I mean, I know it's just
Yeah,
this
yeah,
tiny
definitely.
little penny stock, but some of those, man, they get ripped. Um, And if you look at the situation with a lot of the junior miners, the other part of this is that junior miners they tend to have a strong point of focusing on developing new technologies and stuff like that. And then typically during times where metals are kind of pushing a lot of these junior miners to be consolidated, they become buyout targets. So that's just one of many of these little junior miner companies that I can see that would be a great potential for a buyout. But these guys are pretty faithful about developing some technologies and doing some things with what they have to work with. And I know they've been having a lot of liquidity. They tended to sell some more shares into the market and what people would call, soak the investors a little bit as far as, put more shares out, more offering. But any company is doing that, not so aggressively, but they're doing that to try and provide growth for the company. So they truly are interested in becoming successful at what they do. And it's certainly something to be interested in. I've been kind of had a dirty pleasure holding on to that thing for so long as I have. But like I said, it's made me so much in options income in the past, even though it barely has any liquidity in the options market. It's still doable. And, if you take a 50-cent stock or a 40-cent stock and you go and you sell a cash covered put for like even 10 cents, if it's got to be a month or two out, so be it. That 10 cents off a share at a 40, 50-cent stock, that's a huge percentage of the cost of that stock. It's a no-brainer to sell options on some of those low stocks. So,
yeah.
And I did the same thing with OPEN. It's the same, just build as much interest or much income as I could on it selling options until it finally went kaput. Fine, I close that position. I'll start it over when it tells me to. But not only that, just lastly, if we've got a couple minutes, I also say this about newer traders who are just getting into understanding how to sell options. Practice it with a couple of these penny stocks because your risk is like very, very low. Like you could do this with a beginner-sized account and still be relatively safe as far as your risk goes, especially when you've made enough income on selling options on that thing smoothly with price action that you can overcome the cost of that equity itself. When your cost basis goes below zero, you got nothing to lose. You can just keep making income on this thing until it doesn't give you anymore and then move on. Pretty simple. And it's great practice. And then you get into looking at leveraged ETFs like we have with the 2X on Tesla here and NVIDIA. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Practice this and then go do that, and your life will change. I can almost promise you that if you get good at it. So kind of stay tuned. I'm going to keep talking about some fun stuff. And as far as market movers go, we're using everything we learned scalping penny stocks to trade the market movers like nothing. I mean, it just becomes just a simple process of price analysis and trade what's in front of you. All right. So anything else to add?
No, I think that's about it. Gotten some volume on TSLT since we've been on. So if anyone's out there buying it, thank you.
Very cool. Yeah, it's going to be a great stock. I'm going to start building some positions there. The price is right. And I might start adding to that and I'll sit tight and wait till the options volume comes in and do what I do. I love my options income. I can't complain about it ever. Never get mad when someone slaps.
We're going to try to get them. We're going to try to get them out there for you as soon as possible.
Never get mad when somebody slaps you with a fistful of hundreds. But anyway, we're signing off. Thanks again for joining us this week, guys. We'll be here every week. Kind of between the 11 and 12 hour. It kind of fluctuates a bit. We've got busy schedules. We're traders. We're not just traders. We're managing some things too here. We work literally, well, if you can call it work. But we're here every week, and we love doing this, and we love being able to throw a little shade at Jim Cramer and kind of call him out on some price action analysis. And, not necessarily here to fame the guy, but we just like to make sure we keep things in checks and balances and kind of help level the playing field on Wall Street for what it's worth. So we'll keep doing that as long as we're allowed to.
Yep.
All right. Thanks again, guys. See you next week.